How do we improve our choice of sentence structures in Task 2? Hi there, this is Emma, and for today we will learn how to vary sentence structures using noun clauses. So why is it important to vary sentences? We must demonstrate a good use of complex sentences with some degree of accuracy. Band 4 shows features of only using a rare use of subordinate clauses or complex sentences. Therefore, for those aiming for a higher band like a 7 or 8, it is essential to vary sentences, specifically complex sentences. There are many types of complex sentences, but for today, we will focus only on one of them, which is the noun clause. What is the noun clause? It is defined as a group of words containing a subject and a verb that functions as a noun in the form of a subject, direct object, object of the preposition. It is easy to recognize this clause as it is dependent, which means that it must be joined with an independent clause. So how do we start a clause? Remember that it begins with a relative pronoun, and there are a lot. It is also followed by a subject and a verb. If the relative pronoun can stand alone as a subject of that clause, then it's possible to use a verb after that. Now for this next tip, let's remember to use subject-noun clauses. Through this comparison of sentences, we will check the best one and identify the subject-noun clause. The first sample shows two independent clauses that is combined with and. But the other one starts with the relative clause that starts with the subject, I should say the relative pronoun before the subject, and then the verb. So this is a lot better sample. The next set shows that it begins with the word people or worried and some prepositional phrases. On the other hand, this sample is a lot more complex with what worries people or what people are worried about. This makes her subject a lot longer and complex. On to the common and less common complex sentences. We may find that the first sample uses the conditional statement if clause, while the second one is using a less common structure with whether as the relative pronoun, children, verb, followed by the object and some prepositional phrase or not. Ideally, it's good to use a variety of complex structures. Therefore, it is encouraged to use both. But if this will make one rely on a common structure using the conditional statement if clause, then it's probably best to explore different kinds of complex sentences to achieve a higher band. Now for this next tip, use direct object noun clause. For this next set of sentences, we begin with a simple statement and complex structures. The complex structure starts with an independent clause, some people believe, followed by the relative clause that, technology is a replacement, and the prepositional phrase. We find that this direct object noun clause follows the verb, and we see another variation. That technology is replacing a lot of job tasks. We can see that there is a subject, there is a verb, and an object. these variations will give you a lot of complex sentences to use. So let us use the direct object noun clause. Another type that we should attempt to use is the object of preposition noun clause. Notice that in this first set, there might be no differences at all, except whichever, which is a determiner that indicates which rules to restrict dangerous sports. Now, for this next sample, we may find a difference in the subject and the object of preposition. First is that it begins with the subject and then the verb followed by the object, which is a simple sentence, while this other one begins with computers, with prepositional phrases, verb, and an adjective followed by prepositional phrase and the object of the preposition, which is whomever, followed by the verb and object again. So notice that the subject from this part comes from the object coming from this first sentence, which shows a shift of focus because it is not ideal to use people as the beginning of the sentence all the time. So let us vary the use of the object of preposition. Lastly, let's use the subject as complement noun clause, and let's observe this sentence structure. We can see that there is a subject, linking verb, adjective followed by the noun clause. The first sample is a compound sentence using the conjunction so. But the second example shows an independent clause, it is important, followed by this relative clause and the conjunction followed by an independent clause. So notice that that clause, the relative clause, comes after the adjective of that independent clause. In the other examples we saw, that relative clause comes after the verb believe, and there are other verbs as well like feel or think, and this is quite useful to show that there is emphasis in this sentence. Now, let's remember to use noun clauses in its different forms, from the subject, the direct object, object of the preposition, and the subject as complement. This will most likely result in high band when we vary the sentences, specifically the complex sentences, to achieve a high band for grammatical range and accuracy. So let's not forget to use these tips. There are more to come in the next videos, so don't forget to hit that notification bell, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's all, and see you again.